Books Incorporated presents an unabridged recording of Bonnie Prince Charlie by Carolee Erickson, narrated by Stephen Crossley. This work is copyrighted 1989 by Carolee Erickson. This recording is copyrighted 1998 by Recorded Books Incorporated. In 1707, the Scottish and English Parliaments passed the Act of Union, uniting England, Scotland and Wales into one country to be known as the United Kingdom of Great Britain. In 1715, James Edward Stuart, leader of the Jacobites and pretender to the throne as the head of the House of Stuart, led his Highland Scots followers in rebellion against English rule. His forces were crushed and he fled to France. 30 years later, the Highlanders revolted again. This time, at the head of their army, rode James's son, Charles Edward Stuart. And now, Bonnie Prince Charlie.
Chapter 1. The small boat that approached Peterhead Harbour on the east coast of Scotland toward the end of December 1715 foundered badly in rough seas. High winds and towering waves had tossed it mercilessly up and down for a week in its crossing from Dunkirk, leaving the crew and the handful of passengers aboard ill and miserable. To be sure, the violent weather had helped to protect the ship and the men from being captured by one of the English men of war patrolling the Channel. But this single piece of good fortune hardly compensated for the overwhelming bad luck that seemed to follow the ship's most important passenger, James Francis Edward Stuart, wherever he went. James was accustomed to meeting his misfortunes stoically, yet year by year they weighed him down more and more, turning the corners of his mouth downward and leaving his regal yet vapid features bereft of animation or enthusiasm. At 27, his tall, thin figure seemed to be growing leaner instead of filling out. His black eyes were sad, even woeful. He sighed and on occasion wept for his lot in life, which was so far from being the destiny to which he was born. James had no doubt that he, and not the short, pop-eyed Elector of Hanover, whom the English perversely recognized as King George I, was the rightful King of England. James was, as he phrased it, the only born Englishman now left of the royal family. His father, James II, had been ousted from his throne in 1688 by a selfish clique of political opportunists. Since then, England had been ruled by the ousted king's two daughters. First Mary, who had ruled jointly with her husband William, and then Anne, who had died without an heir in August of 1714. He, James, the only surviving legitimate son of James II, believed himself to be Anne's only true successor. The Elector of Hanover was a usurper, and it was James's duty to remove him and restore the Stuart dynasty. This much was clear to James as he prepared to go ashore at Peterhead and put himself at the head of the army that awaited him. What was not clear was why, so far, life had conspired to thwart his efforts to recover his throne. He had always been unlucky. As an infant, he had been weak and sickly, blue at the lips from lack of oxygen and covered with an unsightly rash. Severe colic nearly killed him, and the royal doctors who dosed him with concoctions made from herbs, dried vipers, and the skull of a hanged criminal would surely have finished him off had his father not intervened. While still a tiny baby, he had been taken to live at Saint-Germain-en-Laye near Paris, where his father, deprived of his crown, maintained an embittered shadow court. James's childhood had been spent under the eye of his father's quarrelsome advisers, who thought of little else but how to restore their master to his throne. To them, James had been the blackbird, the undersized and unnaturally quiet child whose black hair and eyes and dark complexion made him look like a gypsy. He had been sheltered, kept...
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.